So recently, Donald Trump claimed he had some sort of trade deal with Japan, and immediately my wife and I looked at the details of said thing, and it was quite suspicious, to be perfectly frank. Some things were off about the deal. Now we have some more details about this. It looks like our suspicions were correct, and it's even more crazy than we thought, which I want to share with you. Plus, it looks like Donald Trump is panicking on China, trying to get a deal over there. So let's listen of what's going on. And first, we'll start with Scott Bessent. Have a watch.
Well, there is a photo circulating on Twitter from Dan Scavino, and you actually see a Sharpie X out of some what looks like preliminary deals for even more concessions with Japan.
So yes, we have Sharpie Gate 2.0, I guess. And effectively what this is a card. Looks like Lutnick made the card, and then Trump likes to draw all over it. So that's Trump's business ability in these things, is drawing on stuff. So, no, for real, that's actually, I guess, his drawings. This is Lutnick talking about that. Have a watch.
So I'm the table setter, if you will, right? I set the table, right? I organize things, I structure things. There was a picture that the president posted over his shoulder with the big board that, of course, I created the big board and put it there. But the answer is the negotiator-in-chief of the United States of America is sitting behind the desk. Right. Donald Trump was sitting there negotiating the deal.
You also created the board on Liberation Day, and we saw the Sky High Tech.
So, I had my suspicions that Lutnick was the board maker because I saw him before. He's kind of like Igor, if you know Igor from like Young Frankenstein. Yes, master. Yes, master. And he was bringing up the board to Trump. No, seriously, they really did. And so I guess that's his role in this stuff. But really what we're talking about here is money. And they had this weird structured thing to where it was like they were saying, okay, Japan's going to put up a bunch of money, but it's not exactly the case because they use the phrase loan guarantees. I want you to listen to how they talk about this stuff.
That is a different kind of deal, but because the Japanese proposed a very innovative solution. We've been working with them for months, the trade team, myself, Ambassador Greer, Secretary Lutnick, and they came to us with the idea of a Japan-U.S. partnership where they are going to provide equity, credit guarantees, and funding for major projects in the U.S. So they got the 15% rate because they were willing to provide this innovative financing mechanism.
So we're talking about innovative financing mechanism where Japan is, like, yeah, there's some equity in there. Was it credit and loan guarantees? And this is the part where I had a lot of questions because it didn't make sense the way the deal was structured. They were talking about how USA was going to get 90% of the profits and Japan only like 10%. Like, it doesn't make sense. I wonder, it's not mentioned specifically, but I wonder if this has to do with please, Japan, don't sell off U.S. bonds. Like, I wonder if this is part of the negotiations. If you're kind of curious, Japan has confirmed it. They were talking about in their news.
Kyuchi also told us that business risks will remain high if the U.S. continues to stick to an American-first policy. Japanese companies may slow their investment pace in the U.S. or focus elsewhere, such as Europe. Another economist gave this deal high marks. I spoke with Mizuho Securities chief economist Kobayashi Shunsuke. He says Japanese automakers will have an advantage in the U.S. market over some non-U.S. rivals, now that auto tariffs are set to be lower. We still have to see how this all shakes out. Trump has a history of being unpredictable. Just because he says a deal has been made doesn't mean that's the end of the story.
Right? So even in Japan, they're talking about that Trump is unpredictable. He can change his mind. And even if he says there's a deal is made, doesn't mean it's the end of the story. They were also talking about, too, that you're looking at possible slowing growth in Japan. So that's why the questions were like, where does Japan have all this money? Trump was promising $550 billion. But I don't think it's that. And this is something that Trump has done before where they'll work out some sort of deal and it's like, well, can you make it a bigger number and a nice round number so I can tell the TV folks at home?
So I started, because the Japanese are never going to really open their market the way Donald Trump wants them to open it. I mean, open it. So what happens is they had to come up with another way to really make it work and the tariff model work. So I suggested to them a $400 billion fund where they would give to the president and they would give to America the financing to go build out your whatever you think for national security, go build it. We'll back you. And that's the model.
And it was funny, the reporters even like giving a weird look, because like, what the heck are you talking about? Now, remember, Trump was promising that they're going to build a bunch of factories, but I don't think it's going to be that. It sounds like to me, Trump's just, Japan is just going to be the bank, I guess in this case, the financier. The money, it looks like it's maybe going into Trump's pocket per se. So I'm kind of curious on this stuff. And you have to remember, Japan's prime minister is looking most likely to resign, although he's denying it recently. There's a lot of shady things going on with this. That's why I want to go over it with you guys.
I want to pick up this idea of innovative financing mechanisms and this $550 billion fund the Japanese are going to be investing into. What exactly is that fund going to look like?
So the Japanese are going to give America the ability to choose the projects, decide the projects, and execute the projects. So let's say we want to build generic pharmaceuticals, right? We don't make antibiotics in America. So the president says, let's go make antibiotics in America. The Japanese will finance the project. They will finance the project, and then we'll give it to an operator who'll run it, and the profits will be split 90% to the taxpayers of the United States of America and 10% to the Japanese. So they basically bought down their tariff rate by this commitment of, we will back what you, the president, want, and you, America, want to build in America that are key to national security concerns. We'll back that.
See, that's where it doesn't make sense, okay? So if Japan is taking on the risk, why would they only do that for only 10% of the profits? And then they're talking about Japan's going to back whatever Trump decides to do and then act as a financier. My initial reaction to stuff, and we'll watch some more though, is I think, are we talking about American companies getting loans from Japan, or are we talking about specifically Trump getting loans from Japan? Or guarantee would be like, are we talking about American companies getting loans from Trump, and if then the companies can't pay it back, or Trump can't pay himself back, because I guess you could do this sort of insider loan trading thing, then Japan would theoretically guarantee said loans. I mean, how is this going to be structured? That's why I'm showing you guys this stuff. It's a bit strange. I haven't heard of this before. This is the first time they started mentioning this stuff. That's why it was bizarre, because Trump's been promising all along that the other countries are going to come in and build factories in USA, but it doesn't sound like that to me.
The reports the prime minister, though, may be resigning. Could this deal transcend domestic politics in Japan?
Of course. I mean, it's vital. You saw what happened to their car companies. They were all up more than 10% today. So a 25% tariff delivers what Donald Trump said: build it in America. A 15% is right on the edge. It's right on the edge. So the Japanese car manufacturers can still produce in Japan. And that's what the Japanese wanted to buy. They wanted to buy that line where they could stay in Japan for some cars, build, of course, huge amounts here. But also what they did is they'll...
See, it's strange, right? So they were promising you that Japan was going to build a bunch of factories, but then literally they're talking about, oh, no, well, Japan wanted to keep their factories in Japan. They'll build still, yes, they'll build stuff in USA. But like I said, I think, like, quote, all of these, jobs that Trump is promising coming, to the USA, and USA is going to be a big manufacturing hub. I just don't see it developing. That's why I'm showing you guys this stuff, to see it with your own eyes. They're trying to claim victory here, but it doesn't sound as good as they're painting it out to be.
The Prime Minister, Ishiba, says these are loan guarantees. Is it more than that?
Of course it's more than that. It's equity, loans, and loan guarantees. They have to deliver the project. So we say, let's build semiconductors. We want to build $100 billion worth of semiconductor fabs, is what you call them, because we want to make those chips in America. The Japanese will finance that whole project. They've got to put down equity, loans, whatever they want to do.
With
they have
US
to deliver the $100 billion.
Or Japanese companies?
Oh, no. Anybody does it. It's the Japanese are the financier. They're the banker. They're not the operator. It's not Japanese companies. So when people get confused, this isn't like a Japanese company like Toyota coming in and building a factory. No, that's Toyota. This is literally America saying we want to build generic pharmaceuticals, semiconductors.
See, do you guys see this? So, like I said, it sounds like to me the plan is American companies are going to borrow money from Japan, I guess. I guess that's the plan, and supposedly build factories. But wouldn't this also predicate that the American company would want to do said thing? That's where the stuff doesn't really make sense, other than we know that a lot of the stuff wants to go into Trump's pocket, and there's always Trump trying to find a way to grift this stuff. That's why I want to get your guys' opinion also.
Critical minerals here.
Does anything like this exist now? Like, what could we think of and model after this?
That's why you have someone like me who joins the government.
Okay, great. This is Besant. More on this stuff.
As I've said many times, there is the potential for a big, beautiful rebalancing between the U.S. and China. President Trump is committed to bringing back precision manufacturing to the U.S. And as we become more of a manufacturing economy, China is highly imbalanced. They account for 30% of all the manufacturing output in the world. That's not sustainable. We believe they should become more of a consumption economy. If they are willing to go down that route, then we could actually do it together.
So if you listen to what he was saying, he's talking about a sort of rebalancing and switching of roles. Is then China going to be all the consumers, essentially the wealthier consumers, and then USA wants to be effectively the poor manufacturers, right? The factory workers? Is that the world that Besant and Trump want? I mean, if you had to, get my opinion, I'd say yes, that's what it sounds like. But we also know that Trump wants to replace workers with robots and AI. So that's where this stuff doesn't make sense. And I don't think he'll tell this to his followers. Hey guys, we're going to be making tons of stuff. We're going back to the factory workers, and that's what you want, right? And then the other countries are going to buy stuff from us because they're going to be the rich consumers. Fantastic, right? And then we're going to get Japan to be the bank. Oh, great.
There's a lot of Japanese FDI into the United States already. Is this new capital?
Oh, no, this is all new capital. This is all new capital, and it is going to be targeted at the strategic industries that President Trump and this administration believe that we have to de-risk on. During COVID, we saw our vulnerabilities, whether it was in medicines, semiconductors. So we are going all in over the next few years to de-risk our supply chains. And this deal, thanks to President Trump, is going to be part of that.
Okay. And I think a lot of this is going to go to the sovereign wealth fund thing. That's my thoughts on this stuff. They announced it before back in February, but it's sort of what it feels like. And because they keep sort of emphasizing that Trump, can decide where he wants this money to go, et cetera. If you're curious about the sovereign wealth fund before, they're also talking about using the tariff money to go into some sort of slush fund, which is, again, the sovereign wealth fund. They were also talking about making this external revenue service to collect said money. A lot of this is a grift, and it looks like Trump is now going to be possibly begging China to, come to the table or something. This was the headlines. Trump may travel to China to meet Xi, not too distant future. I don't think Xi's coming to the USA, so that's would put Trump in a weaker position, right? Whoever goes to whose house.
Now both sides have de-escalated, and I think we can get into a very good cadence of regular meetings with them. And look, we're the two largest economies in the world. We do not want to decouple with the Chinese. We just need to de-risk part of our supply chain.
Does regular incremental meetings include a meeting between President Trump and Xi Jinping this fall?
I do know that Party Chair Xi has invited President Trump to visit China. I don't know. I don't have dates on that. I don't know if the president's accepted. I know they have a fantastic relationship on a personal level, which I think forms the basis of everything between the U.S. and China.
Local reports in China were talking about the two meeting on the sidelines of the APEC summit in South Korea this fall. It's end of October, early November, or maybe President Trump going to China first. Could we see a meeting that soon? You think a meeting within this year can happen?
I'm not privy to the president's travel schedule beyond September, so we'll see.
That's what they want to do, right? It looks like China's running the house, running the rules, however you want to say it, and then Trump's going to have to go to them. I mean, that's how I read that. Also, any sort of deal or whatever they're going to make with Japan. Remember, Japan's prime minister may be on his way out. Plus, they're going to have to get this passed through the parliament in Japan and then also through Congress in the USA. So a lot of these things are quite questionable.
I don't think anybody, Europe's not going to go and give us $1 trillion to
Well, can they
invest
get
in
below
America.
15%, or is 15% now the floor?
For autos, I would.
No, for a reciprocal tariff for the European Union.
I don't think
at one point they were willing to accept.
I don't think
10%.
big countries can get low like that. I think small countries have a possibility of being low, and that's up to the president.
And so the question is, as you go through other countries and negotiations, if Japan has a 15% tariff on Japanese products coming to the USA, and again you're going to pay it, the American consumer, is that essentially the baseline for all products from other countries, and effectively everything's going to go up in USA in price? Now, Besant's going to try to deflect and say, no, no, no. It's not going to go up in price. Listen to what he has to say. And actually, he went on MSNBC, and they still threw him softballs. Watch this.
And the question is, the one thing I do know, and you were mentioning the new Japan trade deal, 15% tariffs. I do know that the tariffs, the cost of tariffs on automobiles, which will begin, I don't know, August 1st or whatever, will be paid by people like me, the consumer. The question is, does the president realize the consumer pays the tariffs?
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with that. Is who pays the tariffs is a choice. And what we've seen thus far is that the manufacturers are eating a substantial portion of the tariffs and taking it into their profit margins. So you might see, for instance, Toyota hasn't raised prices, and they may choose to go for market share.
See, and they keep trying to play down that you're going to end up paying the tariffs. And this is where it's been a lie from the beginning, where Trump's like, oh, other countries are going to pay the tariffs. It's not true. It's a tax. The importer pays it. So the American company, and then the American company will ultimately pass the price on to you. I'm showing you what they're saying, though, because you have to understand, if they're going to be dishonest about this tariff stuff, then how many things are they being dishonest about? And that's where it gets tricky, right? This is more, and it was frustrating because a lot of these reporters don't push back. I think they're instructed not to, because these people aren't dumb. They just don't push back. Watch a little bit more here.
Are you confident that even as new tariffs go into place on August 1st, on August 12th, that there will not be an effect that Americans are going to see when they try to buy a car or Christmas goods or toys or dolls or anything else?
Well, I think what we've seen so far is that the manufacturers have been eating it a lot, or the exporters have been taking a lot of the price or the tariff adjustment. I think we're also seeing a lot of the retailers do it. A lot of the retailers' margins got very fat during COVID, so I think some of them are absorbing it. I was with the Amazon CEO last week, and he said thus far they're not seeing any price increases. And thus far, we've seen very good inflation numbers.
So according to him, they have good inflation numbers. You're not seeing any price increases, and everything's jolly. Now, this has been an honest opinion on this stuff. I think what happened was there's a lot of companies out there that bought a bunch of things pre-tariffs, right? The first quarter, because they knew the tariffs were coming, so they tried to stock up on inventory as much as they can. So, maybe they didn't raise prices right away, but now that the tariffs are all kicking in and they have no choice but to import more expensive goods, they're going to pass the cost on you. Now he's saying, oh, well, no, they're going to eat the eat the cost, but I just don't think it's going to play out that way, as it is if you get more and more tariffs on products from every country coming into the USA. So that's my thoughts on this stuff. I want to hear yours. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.